If I was buying my first home today, wow, what a question to think about. I know many of you have probably thought about this or even asked the question, and it's definitely something that's been coming up more and more frequently within my office. So I figured I'd shoot a video, let you into my own thoughts of what I'm thinking about. Would I be buying a house? If I did, how would I go about it? And what's the best way to navigate today's market? Buying a house is stressful regardless of what market you're in. Whether you're in a seller's market like today where there's very, very little inventory on the marketplace, or when it was a buyer's market back when the real estate market crashed and there were a ton of foreclosures on the market. There are so many emotions that go along with buying a house. Whether it's fear, anxiety, excitement, everything gets wrapped up in buying a home because you're imagining your new property with your family, your kids, or maybe you're having your friends over and it's a new chapter for you in your life. So there's a lot of emotions that go along with buying a house. Now, if I were thinking about buying a home today and it was going to be my primary residence, the one thing that I would be focused on is, can I find a property that I'm going to be happy with, where my payment would be comparable to what my rent would be. Now, if you looked at rents over the last several years, they've been increasing more and more. I've had many clients tell me that their rents have gone up $400, $500. I even had one person tell me it went up as high as $1,000. That about made me fall out of my seat. I couldn't imagine a landlord increasing the rent $1,000, let alone that person living in the house. Imagine their reaction. I mean, I was shocked when they told me that. I couldn't even imagine what they felt when they initially heard the news. Your rent going up $1,000. I mean, most people don't even have the income to support that type of increase because your housing payment, we budget a lot of things based off of what those big expenses are, whether it's your car payment, your rent, your mortgage, and everything else kind of goes along after that. That being one of the most highest ticket items that you probably pay every single month. That was a huge shock for me. And I think if I were renting and I was really seriously thinking about buying, that'd be the one thing that I would strongly consider is, can I get pre-approved based on my current situation of my income, what I'm looking to buy, and can I find a house that's going to be comparable to what that payment is? I wouldn't necessarily care so much about the increase in property values. Now, of course, that's the obvious, and a lot of you get stuck on the fact that the market is continuing to go up, but you have to look at the trade-off. And that's how I would look at it and say, what's the opportunity cost of not owning? You can always look back in time, and hindsight's always 20/20, like they say. And hey, I could have bought last year, and the house that I could have paid, maybe it was $350, and now today it's $425. Or I could have got an interest rate last year at 3%, but this year it's 4%. So there's all these factors that I think get into our minds psychologically that make the buying process a lot more complicated and a lot more terrifying than what it really is. So I think if you strip away a lot of those other what ifs or I should have this, I should have that, and really look at what is going on today, what's available today, I think that makes the process a lot simpler to digest, and you remove a lot of the noise so that way you can make a good decision as to whether or not you should buy a house. Now, with buying your first property, like we talk about so many times on my channel, getting pre-approved, and a few ways that I would go about finding who a good loan officer is. I would check with any friends and family as to if they had any referrals that maybe someone had purchased a home recently or refinanced, and I could start with their loan officer. I would then start looking at websites such as Zillow.com, because Zillow.com actually ranks loan officers all across the country. You can look up their reviews, you can see what states they're licensed in, and I would probably browse through some of their testimonials to see what are the customers saying. Are they saying the same things like, hey, this guy is so efficient with his time, or he's very responsive? So some of those factors that I might value being the same things like efficiency, responsiveness, took the time to explain the process to me, gave me some options. All of those things would matter to me the most being a first-time home buyer. The rate, in my opinion, is the rate. I mean, I would be more concerned about closing my loan on time, or the fact that, hey, this guy is actually going to close my loan versus what the interest rate is. I think that shopping around, you're going to find lenders at maybe an eighth or a quarter point higher than maybe the other guy. But remember, rates fluctuate every single day. And depending on the stock market, it can have an effect on the mortgage rates. So I'd start to look at all of those factors. Even look at social media, look at their Facebook, look at their Instagram pages. Are these guys experts at what they do? Are they educating their audience? Are they talking about how they structure their deals? How do they structure and deal with their customers? Because I want to know what I'm going to deal with once I reach out to this person. And when I go to look to buy things these days, I'll do my homework online, like probably most of you, and I'll search around, do some Google searches, and try to do as much homework as I can. Normally, when I commit to working with someone or I'm going to buy something from a certain company, I usually stick with them because now at this point, I feel good enough with the homework that I've done that I can trust the other person that I'm working with. And now I'm about getting business done. I don't necessarily shop around to the very, very last minute when I look to buy something, whether I'm buying a new car or a TV for my house or furniture for the house. I know what I want. And at the end of the day, I just need someone to help me get to the finish line. So now that I found my lender, now it's time to find a real estate agent. How do you go about finding a good real estate agent? I don't think a lot of people talk about this, but one of the questions that I would ask a realtor as I'm interviewing probably several real estate agents, I would ask them, when was the last time you had a real estate transaction go sideways and how did you fix it? Or how did you handle the situation? Many of you will choose a real estate agent based on maybe a referral from a family friend, which is great, or you might ask them how long you've been in business. Now, the one thing I want to tell you is that most real estate agents, they don't do a lot of business. And this isn't to talk bad about realtors that are out there. It's the facts. You can literally Google this information. I think the National Association of Realtors says that the average real estate agent closes about 1 deal a month. Now think about this. You are the first-time home buyer. You probably want to trust someone who's been in the business that does a lot of deals. So asking the question of how long you've been in business may not be the best question because someone who's been doing it for 20 years, if they're only doing 1 deal a month, that's not a lot of business, right? I want somebody who's doing a ton of business today because they're going to have more market data. They're going to have more knowledge. They're going to know how to negotiate offers a lot better than someone who does 1 deal a month. So that would be my first question I'd ask the real estate agent. And the reason why I want to know this is because if a realtor tells you that I've never had a deal go bad, I've never had any issues with any closings, I would run. Because as a mortgage lender and doing this for 15 years, I can tell you, someone who bats 1,000%, they're not doing a lot of business because it's nearly impossible to close every single transaction perfectly because there's so many moving parts that can go wrong with a deal, whether it's the appraisal, whether it's a home inspection, whether the client actually is forthcoming about certain things on their application. Or sometimes there's money that's being moved around that we have to source. There's a million things that could literally go sideways. And you have to remember, the loan process in and of itself is very, very archaic for the most part. It's very labor intensive. There's processors, underwriters, loan openers, there's loan assistants, there's funders, there's closers, doc drawers. There's all these people that are literally behind the scenes that some of you will never talk to, but their hands are in the file. So the more hands that touch files, the more people that get involved, there's a higher chance that things can get missed. There's a higher chance that things can get overlooked, which all the technology that's out there in the mortgage space is getting better and better by the years. I remember when I first got into business 15 years ago, I used to take hand applications. I used to print out the applications and punch holes in them to put them in a folder, put them in my car, so if I visited open houses on the weekend, I could literally handwrite an application. That's how much the technology's come. And you look at today, where some of these lenders have online applications that can literally verify your income, verify your assets while you're doing the application. So technology's come a long way, but it doesn't replace the knowledge of a loan officer and to make sure that they're doing their job properly. So now that you've interviewed a few realtors and you've picked someone that knows how to negotiate, that's gonna fight for you and be in your corner, and someone who's gonna really make sure that they're looking out for your best interests, I think that is one of the utmost things of importance that you can look for in a real estate agent. Because again, if we're looking at today's market, it's a seller's market. It's very competitive everywhere across the country. And the one thing that drives me crazy is when I hear real estate agents tell clients that you need to submit your highest and best, or we can't ask for closing costs, or we can't do this, we can't do that, and we have to give the seller everything that they want. I always push back on that because If I'm buying a house and I'm asking you as my real estate agent, isn't it your job to negotiate for me? Or are we just going to give the seller everything that they want so that I can move into the house? Because if I'm the buyer, I want to make sure that I'm getting a deal. Yes, the seller might get a price above the asking price because I might fall in love with the house. And to me, the value of the property is irrelevant. Let's say the house is $500,000 and I might say, look, I am willing to pay $520,000 for this property because I know the property is going to go up in value. So even if I'm paying slightly over market price today, in 6 months, in a year, I'll have made that money back. So to me, I find value in that property. But I want to be the one as the buyer to make that decision. I don't want the real estate agent telling me, you need to give the seller this price or you're not going to get your offer accepted. I strongly believe that good realtors out there will negotiate for you and they're going to put you as the buyer first. And to me, like I said, if I'm buying, that's what I'm looking for a realtor to represent me. Now that I've got my lender and now that I've got my realtor, now we're shopping for properties, we're looking at homes, and this is the fun part about the entire transaction. This is where you are starting to envision your big screen TV if you're a guy, or maybe if you're a girl or a female, you can see maybe coming home to your own home, right? You've been able to do it. Maybe you're the first one in a family that's bought a property. That's a huge accomplishment. Or just knowing that, hey, I did this on my own. This is my own house. I remember when I bought my first property, there was a pretty cool feeling knowing that, hey, I kind of accomplished a big thing. I didn't really know anything about buying properties until I got into the mortgage business. So it's a huge accomplishment, regardless of what age, sex, gender, any of that stuff. It's a huge accomplishment for anybody. Now, when you're searching for your home, you have to understand that the market moves pretty quick. So you have to be responsive with your lender and your real estate agent. And another tip that I will give you to help get your offer accepted is making sure that your real estate agent copies your loan officer when they submit your offers. And the reason why you want to keep everybody on the same page is because most loan officers, if they're good, they're going to be busy, which means they got a number of clients that are shopping for homes all across the country. The reason why you want to keep them in the loop is because a good loan officer will reach out to the listing agent when that offer is submitted, and they will talk to them and let them know that, hey, I've verified John's information. I've pulled his credit. He's got a 750 credit score. I've verified his income and his assets. We've got a low debt to income ratio. We've got a really strong file. These are some of the things that a loan officer can talk to the listing agent about, because the one thing that the seller wants is certainty. They want to know that if I take your offer, you are going to perform. You're not going to back out. Your loan's not going to fall apart in the 11th hour. And we're not going to have all of these issues, like I mentioned earlier, that could come up in the middle of a transaction. So I would want my real estate agent and my lender working together. Now, if they're not, I would have a problem, because if my real estate agent is just going to submit offers blindly, not trying to build relationships, even with the listing agent, or to do something to make my offer stand out, it's going to be really, really challenging for me to get my offer accepted. And like most of you that are watching this video, you probably don't want to shop for months on end, right? Depending on what part of the country you're in, it's cold, or you don't want to deal with the weather. So to know that every weekend I need to keep going out looking at more properties can get frustrating over time. I want to make sure that we're being efficient, we're submitting our best offer, and my agent is doing the best to negotiate for me to get me in my house as fast as they can. Now, once the offer gets accepted, my lender's going to take over to get the loan closed. And again, I've done my due diligence up front. I can rest assured knowing that I did a pre-approval properly up front. I provided him all of my income documents, my asset documents, and my lender should be able to perform in order to meet our close of escrow, which in most parts of the country is 30 days or less. So he's got enough time to get that deal done for me. Now that I've closed on the house, I've moved into my home, got my keys, I have that sense of accomplishment, I should be able to look back and say that process was pretty easy. Now, of course, getting your offer accepted can be challenging. I totally agree with that. And trust me, I've talked to some of you that have been very frustrated with your realtor and even some of the experiences that you had trying to get your offer accepted. But I can share the sentiment of the frustration, because even when I bought my first property, it took me several offers before something stuck. And I would literally go out every single week looking at houses, and I would always fall in love with one property that day. Every day I went out, I would call my dad and I would say, Dad, I found a house. I love it. I think we're gonna get this one accepted. And guess what? My dad would call me back. Hey, Sean, did you hear anything back? Nope, we didn't get accepted. The offer got rejected. So after a few of those phone calls, I stopped calling him until I knew that we got the offer accepted. So trust me, I get it. I know the frustration you guys are feeling. And sometimes I just feel that it's good to have a loan officer in your corner, or even a real estate agent that you can have these honest, candid conversations with, because even for myself, I love hearing that from our clients, because sometimes you just need a vent. And that's what we're here for. I want to make sure that we're in your corner from start to finish. And for a lot of my clients, I still have done loans for them over the last 15 years. In fact, one of my clients, she was my first transaction in my entire career. After 15 years, I've probably done about 5 other deals with her over the time. So it's really cool to form a relationship. And that's why, like I said, as you're looking for your lender, you want to look at somebody that you're going to build a relationship with, because if you're an investor or you want to learn how to build wealth with real estate, you want to work with someone who's doing that themselves, because they can give you a cheat sheet as to how you can get there faster, right? There's so many ways that you can go about learning the real estate industry, that why not lock arms with somebody that can actually teach you the ropes and get you to your end goal. So that's why I always talk about the fact that it's not always about the interest rate. Yes, you want a good rate. Everybody does. I get that. But sometimes knowledge is important, and knowledge can get you a lot farther, because if you can make some money, you can offset the interest rate any day of the week. If I were buying my house for the first time, that is exactly what I would do to get through the process, knowing what I know now, that I could have had that conversation with myself as a 25-year-old buying my first property. I hope this video helps you understand some of the things that you can look out for, questions to ask, and nuances that you can try to avoid to make your process as smooth as possible. And don't forget, if you want to learn how to get your mortgage right, you can check out this playlist right here, or you can hit the description below for more information, and I will see you on the next video.